Welcome to another edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com. We're doing a series of interviews with the featured speakers at the upcoming Parental Alienation Conference being held in New York City the first weekend in October. The conference is titled Parental Alienation Syndrome, Past, Present, and Future, and is geared towards mental health and family law professionals, but is open to the general public. For those who interested in receiving free tickets to the event, you can email me info@dadsdivorce.com. The first 20 people to email me will receive free tickets. And then for discounted tickets, you can still send me an email with your contact information and you will receive $50 off your ticket price. Again, you can email me at info@dadsdivorce.com. For more information about the conference, you can visit the website www.cspas.ca. Today we're joined by the conference's keynote speaker, Dr. William Bernet. Dr. Bernet is one of the driving forces behind the proposal to the American Psychiatric Association to include parental alienation in the next edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So Dr. Bernet, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Matt, thank you.
First off, why should parental alienation be listed as an official psychiatric diagnosis?
The main reason is that parental alienation causes a tremendous amount of pain and unpleasant feelings for the children who have parental alienation and also for their family members. You know, basically what happens in parental alienation is that the child has a belief, which is really a false belief, that one of the parents is an evil person or a dangerous person.
Right.
And this typically happens in situations where the parents are divorced and where there's a hostile divorce and there's a lot of arguing going on. So the child, it fits the definition of a mental disorder because, first of all, there's a false belief. The child has a false belief that the other parent is a dangerous person. And secondly, it has dysfunctional behavior in that the child refuses to go see that person. So what we would like to do is, if it were in the book, if it were in DSM-5, we think that mental health professionals would be more familiar with this and would recognize it. They would catch it when it's at the beginning, at a mild degree of severity. Because the basic idea is that some of these children and some of these families need to have treatment, different kinds of treatment. Because what we want in the end result, we want the child and the children to be able to have a good, healthy relationship with both parents.
You know, we have a lot of our visitors who unfortunately have to deal with parental alienation, and it may be confusing to them why there's even a debate as to including it. Why are there mental health professionals against the inclusion of parental alienation?
Well, there are different arguments, one way and the other. I'll tell you the most extreme argument, the most, I guess, ridiculous argument against parental alienation is that some people claim, and this is really ridiculous, they claim that parental alienation was invented simply to protect fathers who want to sexually abuse their children.
Right.
And there are a few people who actually say that. But I consider that pretty much a ridiculous thing to claim these days. There's another more general concern, is that there is a concern that a parent might misuse the concept of parental alienation in court. For instance, a parent who, where maybe the children don't like that parent, maybe because that parent really was not a very nice guy or a nice mom, and that the parent will say, well, the reason why the children don't want to come see me is because the other parent has brainwashed the children against me. Mm-hmm. In other words, you can see how the concept might be misused in court. So that is a concern that's been expressed. I'll tell you what I think is I'm sure that it comes up in court, but I really think that most judges can figure out. Judges already have to figure out whether these things are true, you know, what people say to them are true or not true. And I think that usually the judge will be able to figure out whether the children have been brainwashed or whether it's simply that the parent isn't a very nice person to start out with.
We hear a lot about the causes and effects of parental alienation, but what are the treatments available out there?
Well, it depends on how serious the situation is. If it's only mild, the definition of mild is the child complains about going to see the other parent and says he doesn't want to go see the other parent, but in fact he goes, and when he goes, he and the other parent have a good time. They basically have a good relationship, but the child puts up a fuss and complains. So that might be considered mild alienation. And to do that, you really just have to address the parents. You really just have to tell both the parents that it's really important for the child to have an attachment to both parents and to have a good relationship with both parents, and that both parents really, really need to support that. So if one parent had been undermining the relationship with the other parent, that should put that parent on notice to not do that anymore. So that's just a mild situation. If it's more complicated, you really do have to do psychotherapy with people, and you really have to do it with everybody. You have to work with the child to help the child base his opinions on his own experiences,
right,
and not just on something that somebody had told him. But we also have to work with both the parents. In other words, if one parent is creating or brainwashing the child, we really have to work with that parent to help him or her cut it out. And obviously, that parent may or may not want to change what they're doing. So sometimes that counseling has to be pretty direct and pretty instructive.
Well, finally, we hear a lot of anecdotal evidence about parental alienation, but are there any sort of statistics that we can point to that would tell us how many children and teenagers out there are affected by this?
Well, we think in the United States there are a couple of 100,000.
Wow.
But, you know, there's no way to know exactly. In fact, part of the problem is there are different definitions for what people mean by parental alienation. There are different ideas, there are different definitions, there are different degrees of severity, mild, moderate, and severe. And so it's really hard to count or to do a statistical evaluation of how many there are, because there's no standard, there's no generally accepted definition, and that's part of what we need. I think part of what would happen if it gets into the DSM-5, it will be possible to really do demographic studies and figure out exactly what the prevalence is of this disorder.
Great. Actually, one more thing. I know that the conference is geared towards mental health and family law professionals, but since it is open to the general public, what can they expect to get out of the conference, and maybe more specifically out of your keynote address?
Well, you know, the different speakers are going to talk about this from different angles. I'm talking about really their proposal and the basis that we kind of have a way of thinking of the 20 reasons why parental alienation should be in DSM-5. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Not all 20 of those reasons, but some of them. And then the other, some of the presenters are mental health professionals who will talk about the mental health or what the situation looks like from a mental health perspective. A couple of the presenters are attorneys who are going to talk about the legal aspects. So I think that people who are interested in this topic would really learn a lot from almost every angle having to do with parental alienation.
So it is a great benefit for alienated parents to go ahead and check out the conference.
I think it would be, because it would help them, first of all, see that they're not the only person who's had this happen to them.
Right. Yeah.
And they can learn how to address it, what to do about it, what other people have done about it. In fact, one of the presenters is in fact a mother who was alienated from her child.
Okay.
And so I think it's other parents can learn from her experience.
Great. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great conference, and thank you again for joining us. I appreciate it.
Okay, Matt, it was nice.
That's Dr. William Bernet. He will be the keynote speaker at the upcoming Parental Alienation Conference taking place in New York City the first weekend in October. Again, for free or discounted tickets, email me at info@dadsdivorce.com. That'll do it for this edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com.